The message came on a Tuesday. Dr. Susan Miller was examining blood samples when her lab phone rang. The voice on the other end belonged to someone from the government. They needed her to come to Washington right away. Something about an international medical emergency. Susan packed her bags that night. 2 days later, she sat in a room with military officers and government officials. The man at the head of the table was General Alan Rogers, a stern-faced leader with gray hair and tired eyes. "What I'm about to tell you is classified," he said. 3 days ago, an alien ship entered Earth orbit. Susan nearly dropped her pen. The room was silent. "They call themselves Krellians," General Rogers continued, "and they came here for our help." A screen on the wall lit up with an image of a tall, slender being with pale blue skin. It had 4 arms and large, almond-shaped eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "This is Ambassador Zexter," Rogers explained. "The Krellians are dying from a disease they call the withering. There, scientists detected unusual compounds in Earth's biosphere that might hold the cure." Susan leaned forward. "And they want our medical knowledge?" "Exactly. That's why you're here, Dr. Miller. You're the best immunologist on the planet." A man in a military uniform spoke up. "I'm Captain Joe Harper. I'll be handling security for this project." He was tall, with short brown hair and alert eyes that missed nothing. Susan noticed several medals on his chest. "Security?" she asked. "For a medical mission?" "Standard procedure," Captain Harper replied, but something in his tone suggested otherwise. The next day, Susan found herself on a helicopter heading toward a remote facility in Nevada. Captain Harper sat across from her, checking his weapon. "Is that really necessary?" Susan asked, pointing at his gun. Harper looked up. "I hope not. But in my experience, it's better to have something and not need it than need it and not have it." The facility was massive, built into the side of a mountain. Inside, scientists from around the world were already setting up equipment. In the center of the main hall sat a strange device, a communication portal linked directly to the Krellian ship in orbit. Susan approached it cautiously. The screen flickered to life, revealing Ambassador Zexter. "Dr. Miller," the alien said, its voice translated through the machine. "Your reputation precedes you. We are grateful for your assistance. I need to understand the withering better." Susan replied, "Can you send me your medical data?" "Of course. We will transmit everything immediately." For the next week, Susan worked day and night, analyzing the Krellian biology and the disease ravaging their population. It was fascinating. Their DNA equivalent used a 7-base system instead of Earth's 4-base system. Their immune system operated completely differently from humans. Captain Harper often watched her work. One evening, as she studied cellular samples, he brought her coffee. "Finding anything interesting?" he asked. Susan sighed. "Their disease is like nothing I've ever seen. It targets their cellular regeneration process. Without treatment, their entire species could be extinct within a decade." "That's terrible," Harper said, but he was looking at something else, a strange pattern in the Krellian data. "What is it?" Susan asked. "Nothing, just thinking." He pointed at her microscope. "These samples, they're all from males?" Susan checked her notes. "Yes, why?" "Just curious." The ambassador mentioned their population was roughly equal between males and females, but all the medical data is from males. Susan hadn't noticed that. She made a note to ask about it later. The next day, a small Krellian shuttle landed at the facility. Ambassador Zexter emerged, along with 3 other aliens carrying scientific equipment. Susan greeted them while Captain Harper stood nearby, hand resting casually near his sidearm. "Welcome to Earth," Susan said. Zexter bowed slightly. "Your hospitality honors us. These are my science officers. They will assist in your work." One of the aliens, smaller than the others, approached Susan. I am Velmic, biological specialist. Your work on human immunology is most impressive. Susan smiled. Thank you. I hope together we can find a cure for your people. As the Krellians set up their equipment, Captain Harper pulled Susan aside. Something feels off, he whispered. Their technology is too advanced for a species supposedly seeking our medical help. What do you mean? I've been in the military for 20 years. I know weapons tech when I see it. Some of their medical equipment has dual purposes. Susan frowned. You think they're lying about why they're here? I don't know. But I've asked for a communications specialist to join our team. Diane Rodriguez will be here tomorrow. Later that evening, Susan was reviewing Krellian blood samples when she noticed something strange. Certain genetic markers didn't match the disease profile they had provided. She double-checked her work, then tried a different test. The results were the same. The withering was real. The samples showed clear signs of the disease, but it wasn't affecting them exactly as they had described. There was something they weren't telling her. The next morning, Diane Rodriguez arrived. She was young with quick eyes and faster fingers. Captain Harper introduced her as the best codebreaker in the service. The Krellians are transmitting encrypted messages to their ship every night, Harper explained. We need to know what they're saying. Susan was uncomfortable with the spying, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right about the Krellian story. That afternoon, during a meeting with Ambassador Zexter, Susan decided to test her suspicions. Ambassador, I notice all the medical samples are from males. To develop an effective treatment, I'll need samples from females as well. A strange look passed over the alien's face. That will not be necessary. The withering affects all Krellians the same way. But biological differences between sexes could be crucial to understanding. The samples provided will be sufficient. Zexter interrupted, his tone suddenly cold. That night, Diane came to Susan's lab, her face pale. You need to see this, she said, handing over a tablet. I decoded part of their transmissions. Susan read the translated text and felt her blood run cold. The message mentioned harvesting operations and human containment protocols. We need to tell Harper, Susan said, as if summoned by his name. Captain Harper burst into the lab. The Krellian shuttle just received a transmission. A fleet of ships just entered the solar system. They're hiding behind Jupiter. Susan looked. From Harper to Diane, the pieces falling into place. They don't just want our help with a cure, she whispered. They want us. The room fell silent as Susan, Harper, and Diane looked at each other. The truth was now clear. The Krellians had not come in peace. We need to inform General Rogers immediately, Harper said, already reaching for his secure phone. Susan shook her head. If we alert everyone now, the Krellians might speed up whatever they're planning. We need more information first. Diane nodded. I've only decoded part of their transmissions. Give me more time. Harper reluctantly put his phone away. You have until morning, but I'm doubling the security team. The next day, Susan met with the Krellian scientists as if nothing had changed. She watched Velmic carefully. The smaller alien seemed different from the others. More hesitant, less sure. Velmic, could you help me examine these cellular structures? Susan asked, isolating him from the other Krell, IANS. As they worked side by side, Susan spoke quietly. The withering doesn't affect all your people equally, does it? Velmic's hands froze over his equipment. His large eyes darted around the room before settling back on Susan. You are very perceptive, Dr. Miller, he whispered. Tell me the truth, Susan pressed. What is really happening to your people? Velmic was silent for a long moment. The withering is real, he finally said, but it primarily affects our females and children. Our military leadership considered them expendable. Susan felt sick. And the fleet hiding behind Jupiter? Velmic's eyes widened in surprise. You know about that? What are they planning? The alien looked down. Once we have the cure, they will harvest humans for the compounds needed. Your species produces natural chemicals that can stop the withering. Millions of your people would be needed for treatment. Susan struggled to keep her voice steady. You mean they would farm us? Like animals? I did not agree with this plan, Velmic said quickly. Many of us don't, but our military leaders give us no choice. There's always a choice, Susan said firmly. That evening, Susan shared what she had learned with Harper and Diane. Harper's face darkened with each word. We need to act now, he said. How much longer until you crack their full communications? Diane looked exhausted but determined. I'm close. Maybe a few more hours. Do it, Harper ordered. I'll alert my team to be ready. Susan touched his arm. And Velmic? He's risking everything by helping us. If he continues to cooperate, we'll protect him, Harper promised, but they were too late. Shortly after midnight, alarms blared throughout the facility. Harper burst into Susan's lab, his weapon drawn. The Krellians have taken over the communications center, he shouted over the noise. They're sending coordinates to their fleet. Susan grabbed her research tablet. Where's Velmic? No idea. Stay behind me. They moved through the hallways, which were filled with panicked scientists and security personnel. When they reached the main laboratory, they found Ambassador Zexter waiting with 2 armed Krellian guards. Dr. Miller, the ambassador said, coldly, your assistance is no longer requested. It is demanded. You lied to us, Susan replied. You never wanted peaceful cooperation. Zexter made a gesture that might have been a shrug. Your species is young and primitive. You exist to serve more advanced civilizations. Harper raised his weapon, but the Krellian guards were faster. A burst of energy knocked him back against the wall. Susan rushed to his side. He was unconscious, but still breathing. You will complete the cure, Zexter told Susan. Then you will help establish the harvesting protocols. I'll do no such thing, Susan said defiantly. The ambassador approached her. You will help us, Dr. Miller, or we will start the harvesting with your captain here. Susan felt trapped. She looked at Harper's unconscious form, then at her research tablet. An idea formed in her mind. I need my equipment and samples, she said, trying to sound defeated. Zexter seemed pleased. A wise decision. Under guard, Susan was allowed to gather her research materials. As she worked, she secretly sent a message to Diane through her tablet. The communications specialist might still be free and might be able to help. Hours passed as Susan pretended to work on the cure. In reality, she was analyzing the Krellian biology for weaknesses. If they wanted war, she would give them one, but on her terms. A commotion outside the lab caught everyone's attention. Gunfire and strange energy blasts echoed down the hallway. The Krellian guards moved to the door, weapons ready. The door burst open. Harper stood there, bloody but upright, leading a team of soldiers. Behind them was Velmic. Step away from her, Harper ordered Zexter. The ambassador hissed something in his native language. The guards fired, and chaos erupted. Susan dove under a lab table as energy blasts and bullets flew overhead. When the shooting stopped, Susan emerged to find Harper standing over Zexter's body. The Krellian guards were down. Velmic stood trembling in the doorway. How? Susan asked, looking at Harper in amazement. Velmic found me, Harper explained. He knew where they kept their weapons and helped us take back the facility. Diane peered, her laptop in hand. I've decoded everything. The fleet is 3 days away from Earth orbit. They're expecting Zexter to have us subdued by then. What about the communications center? Susan asked. We've secured it, Harper said. but not before they sent the coordinates. General Rogers appeared on the video screen. His face was grim. "Captain Harper, we're getting reports of alien ships approaching Earth. What the hell is going on?" "Sir, we're facing an invasion," Harper reported. "The Krullians plan to harvest humans to cure their plague." Rogers cursed. "How much time do we have?" 3 days, sir." "Not enough time to evacuate population centers," Rogers muttered. "We'll have to fight." Susan stepped forward. "General, I have Krullian biological data. Their physiology has several vulnerabilities we might exploit." Velmic joined her. "I will help. My people need the cure, but not like this. Not through slavery and death." Rogers looked at them both. "You have 3 days to find us an advantage, Doctor. Meanwhile, I'm activating every military asset we have." The screen went dark. Susan turned to Harper, determination replacing her fear. "We need to get to a better lab," she said. "And I'll need more help." Harper nodded. "You'll get whatever you need." As they prepared to leave the facility, Susan looked at the stars through a window. Somewhere out there, a fleet was coming to harvest humanity. They expected to find easy prey. They would find something else entirely. The Pentagon buzzed with activity as military leaders from around the world gathered. On screens across the room, satellite images showed the Krullian fleet moving steadily toward Earth. Susan, Harper, and Velmic stood before General Rogers and the newly formed Earth Defense Council. 3 days is not enough time to build a space fleet," a Russian general said. "Then we use what we have," General Rogers replied. He turned to Susan. "Doctor, what have you found?" Susan stepped forward. "The Krullians have 2 major weaknesses. First, their vision operates primarily in the ultraviolet spectrum. They see poorly in our visible light range. Second, their bodies are highly sensitive to certain sound frequencies." "Can we use these weaknesses as weapons?" asked the Chinese admiral. "Possibly," Susan nodded. "But more importantly, I believe we can create the cure they need without harvesting humans." Rogers looked surprised. "You still want to cure them? After what they plan to do?" "The Krullian people are victims of their military leadership," Susan explained. "And we need something to negotiate with when this is over." Harper stepped up beside her. "There's more, sir. We've been studying their ship technology. Engineer Kevin Wright from NASA has made a breakthrough." A tall man with glasses joined them, carrying a strange device. "This is a prototype shield generator based on Krullian technology," Wright explained. "We reversed engineered it from components in their shuttle. With enough power, it could protect our major cities." "How many can you build in 3 days?" Rogers asked. "Maybe enough for 10 cities," Wright admitted. "Not more." "Then we prioritize. New York, Washington, London, Moscow, Beijing." Rogers began listing. "What about weapons?" interrupted a general. "Can we hurt these aliens?" A woman with short gray hair stepped forward. Patricia Gordon, Weapons Division. "We've adapted our missile guidance systems to target weaknesses in Krullian ship design. Their engines emit a specific radiation pattern. We can track it." The room filled with technical discussions as humanity prepared for war. Susan pulled Harper aside. "While they focus on defense, we need to keep working on the cure," she said. "It might be our only real chance," Harper nodded. "I'll make sure you have everything you need." For the next 48 hours, Susan barely slept. She worked alongside Velmic and a team of Earth's best scientists, analyzing Krullian biology and testing potential treatments. In other facilities around the world, engineers built shield generators and modified weapons. News of the coming invasion had spread worldwide. Some cities emptied as people fled to rural areas. Others saw panic and looting. But many places witnessed something unexpected: unity. Former enemies worked together, sharing resources and knowledge against the common threat. On the second day, Kevin Wright burst into Susan's lab, his face flushed with excitement. We did it. The shield generators work. We've installed them in 15 cities now. 15? Susan looked up from her microscope. You said 10 was the limit. People stepped up. Factories running 24 hours. Volunteers everywhere. Wright's eyes shone with pride. You should see what's happening out there, Doc. Later that evening, Harper brought news from the military front. They've launched every satellite weapon we have, he told Susan, and retrofitted fighter jets with the new targeting systems. The first space-worthy vessels are almost ready. Space-worthy. Vessels? Susan asked. What do you mean? Old rockets, retrofitted with weapons and shields, Harper explained. Not pretty, but they'll fly. General Williams is leading the Space Force. Susan looked at the tired captain. You should be up there. With them. Harper shook his head. My orders are to protect you. Your work is our best hope. On the final day before the Krellian arrival, Susan made a breakthrough. She called Harper and General Rogers to her lab immediately. We've done it, she announced, holding up a vial of blue liquid. This compound can stop the withering disease. We tested it on samples Velmic provided. Can it be weaponized? Rogers asked. Susan looked shocked. It's medicine, not a weapon. Everything is a weapon now, Doctor, Rogers said grimly. Velmic stepped forward. The general is right. My people's biology has a unique feature. Information spreads between individuals through a form of biochemical communication. If enough Krellians receive this cure, knowledge of it will spread to others nearby. Like a contagious cure, Susan realized. We could load it into missiles, Harper suggested. Target their ships. No, Susan insisted. This stays medicine. We offer it to them peacefully first. Rogers looked unconvinced, but nodded. We'll try. It's your way, Doctor, but we'll be ready with our way too. That night, humanity waited. Military forces worldwide stood at highest alert. The shield generators hummed over protected cities, creating domes of shimmering energy. In orbit, Earth's hastily assembled space fleet took position. Susan stood at a window, looking at the stars. Harper joined her, now dressed in a space-ready uniform. They reassigned you? She asked. Special mission, he confirmed. If diplomacy fails, I'm leading a team onto their flagship. Susan touched his arm. Be careful up there. Keep working on getting that cure to mass production, Harper said. If we survive this, a lot of Krellians will need it. At dawn, the Krellian fleet entered Earth orbit. Hundreds of ships, far more than anyone had expected. The largest, a massive vessel shaped like a crescent moon, moved to position over North America. General Rogers stood in the command center, surrounded by world leaders and military commanders. On the main screen, the Krellian fleet loomed. Open a channel, he ordered. A face appeared on screen, a Krellian commander with markings that indicated high rank. I am Commander Drezker of the Krellian Empire, the alien announced. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender your medical facilities and prepare your population for processing. Rogers stepped forward. This is General Frank Rogers of Earth. We decline your offer. We have developed a cure for the withering that doesn't require human harvesting. We're willing to share it in exchange for your immediate withdrawal. The Krellian commander laughed, a strange clicking sound. You lie. There is no cure without harvesting. We have one of your scientists here who helped us create it, Rogers countered. Drezker's face hardened. Traitors and lies. You leave us no choice. The screen went dark. Moments later, the first Krellian ships began their descent toward Earth. The invasion had begun. Rogers looked around the room at humanity's defenders. Plan B, he said simply. Across the world, Missile batteries aimed skyward. The shield generators increased power, and in orbit, Earth's small fleet moved to engage. A vastly larger alien armada thought the battle for Earth had begun. The sky burned as Krellian ships entered Earth's atmosphere. Their weapons fired on cities below, only to be stopped by the shimmering shields Kevin Wright had created. The aliens seemed surprised by the resistance dot in orbit, Earth's small fleet of retrofitted vessels engaged the enemy. Though outnumbered 20-1, the human ships fought with unexpected skill. Their targeting systems, designed by Patricia Gordon, locked onto Krellian engine signatures with deadly accuracy. On the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiance, Captain Lisa Braun watched as her weapons officer fired another missile. It struck a Krellian cruiser directly in its engine section. The alien ship spun out of control, trailing debris. Direct hit. The weapons officer shouted. "No time to celebrate," Captain Brown said. 3 more incoming at 2 o'clock. The Defiance shuddered as enemy fire struck its shields. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. "Shields at 30%, reported an engineer. "We can't take much more of this." Brown gripped her command chair. "Position us between those ships and Earth. We hold the line here." Back on the ground, Susan watched the battle on screens in the command center. Fiery streaks across the sky marked the paths of falling ships, both alien and human. General Rogers coordinated the global defense, his face grim but determined. "Moscow shields holding," reported a Russian officer. "London reporting minor breaches, but still standing." "What about the cure?" Susan asked. "We need to get it to their fleet." Rogers nodded to a communications officer. "Send another message to their command ship. Tell them we have the cure and want to negotiate." The officer worked at his console, then shook his head. "No response, sir." "They're ignoring all transmissions." Susan turned to Velnick. "Is there another way to reach your people?" "The Krellian." Scientists thought for a moment. "Perhaps. If I could access their internal communication network from one of their ships ... That's what Captain Harper's team is trying to do," Rogers said. "They're attempting to board the Krellian flagship now." High above Earth, Harper led a team of 12 soldiers in a stealth shuttle. Their vessel, painted black and modified to mask its engine signature, approached the massive Krellian command ship. "Remember the plan," Harper told his team. "We get in, upload the virus to their battle network, broadcast proof of the cure, then get out." A soldier named Ryan checked his weapon. "What if we don't make it out?" Harper met his eyes. "Then make sure the mission succeeds anyway." Their shuttle docked with the Krellian flagship, attaching to an external maintenance port Velnick had identified. Using cutting tools, they created an entry point and slipped inside the alien vessel. The interior was strange curved corridors lit with pulsing blue light. Harper checked a tablet with the ship schematic Velnick had provided. "This way to their communication center," he whispered, pointing left. The team moved silently through the ship, avoiding Krellian patrols when possible, engaging them in brief, violent encounters when necessary. Their weapons, modified to emit the sound frequencies Susan had identified, proved devastatingly effective against the aliens. Meanwhile, the space battle intensified. The Defiance found itself surrounded by 3 Krellian cruisers. Captain Brown ordered evasive maneuvers, but her ship was taking heavy damage. "Shields failing," reported her engineer. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4. Brown made a quick decision. Set collision course with the lead cruiser. Divert all power to forward shields and engines." "Captain?" her first officer questioned. "You heard me," Brown said firmly. "Send the evacuation signal. Get as many crew to the escape pods as possible." The Defiance surged forward, accelerating toward the largest Krellian vessel. Escape pods jettisoned from its hull, carrying crew members to safety. The Krellian ship attempted to evade, but too late. The Defiance struck it amidships, its remaining shields creating a devastating reaction on impact. Both ships erupted in a massive explosion that damaged the nearby Krellian vessels. From the command center, Susan watched in horror as the Defiance disappeared from their tracking screens. "They're gone," someone whispered. "They took 2 enemy cruisers with them," Rogers said, his voice tight with emotion. "Remember their sacrifice. There was no time to mourn." A communications officer called out, "Sir, we've got a transmission from Captain Harper." On the flagship, Harper and his team had reached the communication center. 2 of his soldiers had fallen in the fighting, but the rest secured the area. A tech specialist worked frantically at the alien controls, following Velmic's instructions. "Uploading. The virus now," he reported. 30 seconds to completion. Harper nodded and activated his communication device. "Command, this is Harper. We're in position. Ready to broadcast on your mark." In the command center, Rogers turned to Susan. "It's time, Doctor. Tell the world about your cure." Susan stepped forward, holding a data tablet containing her research. When the connection to the Krellian network opened, she began speaking. "People of Krell, my name is Dr. Susan Miller of Earth. Your leaders have lied to you. The withering can be cured without harvesting humans. We have developed a treatment that targets the disease directly." She held up a vial of the blue liquid. "This cure works. Your scientist Velmic helped create it." Velmic joined her. "It is true, my people. I have tested it myself." Our military leaders knew other options existed, but chose invasion because they wanted Earth's resources as well as the cure. Susan continued, "We offer this cure freely to all Krellians suffering from the withering. All we ask is an end to hostilities and your withdrawal from our planet." On the flagship, alarms blared as Krellian officers realized what was happening. They rushed toward the communications center, weapons ready. "Virus upload complete," a tech specialist told Harper. "Their battle network is compromised." Harper nodded. "Broadcast is sending. Time to go." But as his team prepared to retreat, Krellian forces blocked their exit. Harper checked his ammunition. "Not enough for a fight this big. New plan," he said. "Peterson, Moore, create a diversion. The rest of you, find another way out." Complete. The mission. Outside the flagship, the tide of battle had shifted. The virus spread through the Krellian network, disrupting their coordination. Ships fired on each other by mistake. Defense systems failed. And on every Krellian vessel, screens displayed Susan's message about the cure. On some ships, fighting broke out between Krellian soldiers. Some believed the humans. Others remained loyal to their commanders. The invasion force began to fracture from within. Back on Earth, Susan watched the confusion spreading through the alien fleet. "It's working," she breathed. "Not over yet," Rogers cautioned. "They still outnumber us." Susan looked at the screens showing the battle. "But now they're fighting each other too. And they know we have what they really need." A soldier approached Rogers. "Sir, we're detecting a new ship entering orbit. It's Krellian, but different." On the main screen, a sleek vessel appeared, smaller than the warships, but more elegant. It broadcast on all frequencies. "People of Earth, this is Trelanak of the Krellian Civilian Council. We wish to speak of peace." Silence fell over the command center as the message from Trelanak repeated. General Rogers looked to Susan and Velmic for guidance. "The Civilian Council," Velmic explained. "They hold theoretical power over the military, but in practice, they are often ignored." "Can they be trusted?" Rogers asked. "Yes," Velmic nodded. "Trelanak is known for honor and wisdom." Rogers made his decision. Open a channel. The main screens show a Krellian with softer features than the military leaders. Trelawnec wore flowing robes rather than armor, and small symbols adorned his head that Velmeek explained were marks of civilian leadership. "This is General Frank Rogers of Earth. We are willing to discuss peace." Trelawnec bowed slightly. The civilian council was not informed of the military's true plans for Earth. "We have been monitoring your broadcasts. If what you say about cure is true, there has been a terrible mistake." Susan stepped forward. "The cure is real. I can provide all research data as proof." "Then I propose an immediate ceasefire," Trelawnec said. "I have already ordered all civilian-controlled ships to stand down. But Commander Drezkor and his loyalists may not comply." As if on cue, alarm sounded. A Krellian battleship was descending toward Washington, D.C., where the shield generator was showing signs of failure. "They're making a final push," Rogers realized, "trying to take out our leadership." On the screens, they watched the massive ship lower through the clouds, weapons charging. The shield over the city flickered weakly under the assault. "Where's Harper?" Susan asked urgently. A communications officer looked up from his station. "Still aboard the flagship." His last transmission indicated they were cut off from their extraction point. Rogers faced Trelawnec on the screen. "We need your help. Can your ships intercept that battleship?" "They are too few and too far," Trelawnec replied regretfully. "But perhaps there is another way." Aboard the Krellian flagship, Harper and his remaining men fought their way through corridors filled with confused and fighting aliens. Some Krellians, having heard the broadcast, actually helped the humans pass. Harper's communicator crackled with a new transmission. It was Trelawnec speaking directly to him. "Captain Harper, this is the leader of the Krellian Civilian Council. I need your assistance to end this conflict." "I'm listening," Harper replied, ducking as energy weapons fire passed overhead. "You must reach the command bridge. From there, you can override Drezker's attack on your capital." Harper looked at his remaining Team 4 soldiers, all injured but determined. "That's suicide. The bridge will be heavily guarded." "Not as much as you think," Trelawnec said. "The virus you uploaded has caused confusion. Many soldiers are standing, down or fighting each other. And I have supporters aboard who will help you." Harper made a quick decision. "Send me the fastest route." Back on Earth, Susan watched in horror as the shield over Washington continued to weaken. Evacuation orders had been given, but there wasn't enough time. "If that ship fires its main weapons..." At full power ... double quotes, Rogers didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew what it meant. Susan turned to Velmeek. "Is there any way to get the cure to that ship? Would it make a difference?" "Not quickly enough," the Krellian scientist admitted. "But perhaps..." He moved to a communications console and began sending a message in the Krellian language. "What are you doing?" Susan asked, reaching out to medical staff on that vessel. Many of them disagree with this war. On the Krellian flagship, Harper and his team, now joined by 3 Krellian civilians, fought their way toward the bridge. The ship shuddered around them as battles raged throughout its decks. "Almost there," said a Krellian guide. "Through these doors." The bridge doors were sealed. One of Harper's soldiers placed explosive charges while the others took defensive positions. "Fire in the hole," he shouted. The explosion ripped the doors open. Harper led the charge onto the bridge. Surprised Krellian officers turned to face the intruders. In the center stood Commander Drezkor, his face contorted with rage. "You dare!" The commander bellowed, reaching for a weapon. Harper was faster. His modified rifle fired, sending the commander crashing into a control panel. Other officers raised their hands in surrender. "Take control of the weapon systems," Harper ordered. "Stop that battleship attacking Washington." One of the Krellian civilians moved to a console, sending override command now. In Washington, People watched the sky in terror as the massive alien ship positioned itself above the city. Its main weapon glowed with building energy. The shield flickered one last time and failed, but the weapon never fired. The battleship suddenly changed course, turning away from the city and climbing back towards Space Dot in the command center. Cheers erupted as they received Harper's transmission. Flagship secured. Drezker is down. Trelenek's people are taking control of the fleet. Over the next hours, the fighting gradually ceased. Krellian ships either withdrew to orbit or surrendered to civilian control. Emergency medical teams from both species began treating the wounded. 3 days later, Susan stood in the White House Rose Garden beside General Rogers, Captain Harper, and Trelawnec. Before them, world leaders gathered to witness the signing of the Earth-Krell Peace Accord. In exchange for the cure to the withering, Rogers read from the document, the Krellian Civilian Council agrees to immediate withdrawal from Earth space, technology exchange, and reparations for damage caused. Trelawnec stepped forward. We also offer our deepest apologies for the actions of our military leaders, who have been removed from power. The Krellian people seek a new beginning with humanity as equals and partners. Susan watched as the documents were signed. Beside her, Harper stood tall despite his bandaged arm and the new scars on his face. "Did you ever think we'd end up here when we first met?" Susan asked him quietly. Harper smiled. "Honestly, I was just hoping we'd survive." 6 months later, a new space station orbited Earth. Built with combined human and Krellian technology, it served as headquarters for the newly formed Galactic Cooperative. Ships from a dozen alien species, all contacted by the Krellians at Trelawnec's instruction, arrived for the first interstellar medical conference. Susan and Harper stood at the observation deck, watching Earth rotate slowly below them. "The cure has reached over 80% of infected Krellians," Susan said. "The withering will be eradicated within a year." Harper nodded. "And our defense systems are stronger than ever. No one will try to harvest humanity again." A new plaque had been installed at the station's entrance. Susan had suggested the words herself, and they had been approved by both human and Krellian councils. It read simply, "Humanity. We came to heal. We stayed to protect." As they looked out at the stars, Susan thought about how close they had come to extinction. The aliens had wanted medicine, but humanity had delivered something else as well, a demonstration that even a young species could defend itself when threatened. "What do you think is out there?" Susan asked, gazing at the distant stars. Harper put his arm around her shoulders. "I don't know, but whatever it is, we're ready for it now." Around them, humans and aliens worked together, building a future neither species could have imagined before. The universe had become both larger and smaller, all at once filled with new dangers and new possibilities. And humanity had earned its place among the stars.